know so many people that are dreaming about buying their home in the Dominican Republic, but they're afraid to death they're gonna get scammed out of all of their money. Well, for the first time ever, a project in Dominican Republic is offering something I've never seen before. Insurance-backed protection for your deposit and payments so that if they don't deliver, you get your money back. Oh, and they're not just providing it for you, oh no. They're paying for this coverage too. This could be an absolute game changer. But in this video, I not only want to share the name of the company doing this and analyze their reputation, but I also want to do a deep dive on the insurance coverage they're providing, answering one key question for you all in the end. Can this actually guarantee that you won't lose money investing in the Dominican Republic? Step into my office. Let's explore together. The Larimar project in Punta Cana is a mega city being developed by a construction company out of Spain. In the end, the plan is to have a mixed-use development with condos, hotels, shopping, schools, and a whole bunch more infrastructure. And really the vision is to become a walkable, smart city up on the cliffs overlooking the ocean in a beautiful, beautiful setting. If you follow this channel and you have ads on YouTube, I'm sure, no doubt you've seen Larimar ads on your YouTube channel. They're putting a lot of marketing dollars behind this project, and so many of you have had questions about its legitimacy and what is it? Is it a good investment, bad investment? And to be clear, that's not for me to answer. Unless I'm invested in something, I can't give an opinion like that on it. But I can certainly do my best to inform. And what they're doing right now is absolutely groundbreaking. Now, the Larimar project is backed by a company called, I think it's CLERHP. It's CLERHP Structures, or Estructuras, I think. Estructuras. Somebody can correct me in the comments. And my own curiosity makes me think like, what is that? Who is that? Are they any good? What's the deal? This is where we're gonna start digging, but I don't wanna do it alone. So instead, I brought in this guy. His name is Miguel, and he's a miner. I mean like a miner, not a minor. You get it? It's an old Louis C.K. bit. Some of you may remember that. But Miguel here is gonna help me dig down deep into each segment of this entire story to ultimately answer the question for you. So Miguel, you ready to dive into CLERHP?
Sí.
All right. I get bored. I like to make up. Anyway, just go with it. Just go with it. All right, CLERHP. If they're not called that, that's what I'm calling them. But CLERHP, this company that's building the Larimar project. Here's what I know about them. They're based out of Spain. They have multiple projects fully developed in Spain, but also have done work in Paraguay, Uruguay, Bolivia, and now the Dominican Republic. In fact, to my knowledge, CLERHP is also the lead construction company on different projects in the area, but Larimar is their crown jewel. Now, most interesting about this company is that they're publicly traded on an exchange in Spain. It's a Spanish exchange called BME Growth, which means there's some sort of regulatory oversight required in order for them to be listed. So that's an interesting fact to me, the fact that they're on a public exchange. But me and Miguel over here, there he is, we want to dig deeper on, well, how legit is this exchange? All right, whether or not you invest in the stock market, you've heard of a couple of them. You know what the New York Stock Exchange is, you know what the Nasdaq is, at minimum. This BME Growth Exchange isn't comparable to either of those two. It's more comparable to something called the Nasdaq Composite Exchange, which means essentially that it's a little bit lower of a barrier to entry than if you were to get listed on the New York Stock Exchange or the Nasdaq. Those are the granddaddies, those are the Cadillacs. But it does provide oversight, especially for small to mid-cap companies. You with me so far, Miguel?
Sí.
Miguel gets it. Something like the Nasdaq Composite or the BME Growth Exchange is going to host both quality companies along with early stage companies. But in either case, it provides a layer of transparency and financial analysis needed for them to be listed at all. To me, that's a major win when you're determining what construction company you want to invest in. Now, some examples of companies that are exchanged on the Nasdaq Composite or Nasdaq Capital Exchange, which again is the equivalent to the exchange that the Larimar construction company sits on in Spain, are companies like Rocket Lab, Celsius Holdings, and Plug Power. So it's not a blue chip exchange, but it's a legitimate regulated environment. And I don't know of, maybe there are, other companies doing business, constructing things. Yeah. In DR that are listed on exchanges anywhere in the world. Maybe you do, and if you do, drop it down below. It would be news to me. News to me. So CLERHP is a publicly traded company in Spain doing business now in DR, and they've done projects like Marina Real 2, Blue Tower, Quinta Avenida, all in Spain. Those are full cycle projects. All good things, right? But what's this insurance that they're buying for you? We're gonna get Miguel out here. You ready to dive deeper into insurance, Miguel? Exciting, right?
Sí.
All right, Miguel's ready. I felt like sitting on the floor for this one. Let's talk about insurance. This is where my 21 years in insurance claims experience serves me in making content about investing in the Dominican Republic. I didn't sell it. I was involved when somebody had to claim it. So there were certain things I truly understand about the insurance business that most don't, and I'm using that filter to deep dive this product, and then we'll dive into the company. This is kind of fun under here. You guys should do this more. It's like being in a fort when you were a kid. Don't you think so, Miguel?
You are weird, senor.
All right, let's just take it easy, Miguel. All right? So what is this insurance? It's known as an advanced payment bond, which can also be called a deposit insurance bond. And its sole purpose is to protect the buyer's deposit in the event that the project never gets completed. In this case, the provider's name is One Alliance Insurance Company, which is a Caribbean-based company, and all of the premium required is actually being paid for by CLERHP, by Larimar, by the developer. So the buyer isn't paying directly for the expense of having this policy in place. And to be honest with you, I doubt the developer wants to keep this policy in place forever, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But before we get into the more specifics of what this policy is and the type of policy it is and all of that, I want to compare it to something else that's very common in this market, which is called a fiduciary. Many developers will use something called the fiduciary structure when creating and putting together their development. It's another way to secure and protect buyer or investor funds. Essentially, this developer sets up a fiduciary account with the Dominican bank. You, as the buyer, deposit your money into that account with the bank, which is very secure, and those funds are released to the developer as milestones are met. So if they don't do their job, the money that you stuck in the bank doesn't get released by the bank. Insurance, on the other hand, says that, hey, even if that happens, 2-3 milestones are met and the bank pays out these funds, and then something happens with the developer where they don't deliver or they go bankrupt or they just run off with the money, the insurance on the back end, its intention is to get you paid back at that point. With the fiduciary, if there's still funds in the account that weren't distributed and the developer goes bust, then yeah, you'll get back whatever's left. But whatever the bank already released, that money's gone. So I guess the ideal of ideals is if the developer has a fiduciary set up where the bank is only releasing the payments at certain milestones and there's back-end insurance in case it still doesn't get done. But I digress. All right, let's get out from underneath this desk and talk about the specifics of this insurance policy, because there's something really essential you all need to know. All right, these insurance policies or bonds, there are two different types. There's conditional and there is unconditional. Unconditional pays out upon the default of the developer regardless of the reason for it. For example, in Spain, a company called Mafre, which is huge all around the world, paid a full refund to buyers when a project was halted due to corruption, even though the developer denied any fault on that. Conditional, on the other hand, is paid out only if certain, conditions are met, like proven negligence or contractual breach. Better way of putting it is, on a conditional policy, the burden of proof is higher when making a claim to get a payout than if it's unconditional. Even more directly, you probably do, in fact, you do on a conditional policy need a legal ruling in order to collect. But it happens. There's an example of a Chilean project where the court ruled the developer had breached the contract and therefore the insurance company paid once that legal confirmation was there. Now, in both cases, unconditional or conditional, there are examples I could cite you of denials. So it's not as if one over the other pays more or pays less. It's just a matter of how much burden of proof each one requires. So you're probably wondering, okay, well, for Larimar, is it a conditional or unconditional policy? Good question. Don't you think so, Miguel? Huh?
See?
In this case, the policy that Larimar is offering is conditional, which means it requires legal validation of breach of contract in order for you, the buyer, to get paid out for your deposit. But for me, more important than that, as a guy with an insurance background, is how solid is the company issuing the policy. By the way, I just have to say, if you're new to the channel, my name's Jamie Gruber. I left this big job I just told you about, making $400,000 or $500,000 a year back in 2021, and I went all in on my real estate investment career in the United States, as well as my personal brand and podcast. A year later, my family and I decided we would move for an adventure for 1 year to the Dominican Republic, and we just never left. Going on 3 years right now, and at the moment I'm sitting in my office in Michigan because we're selling this house and buying one down there to live permanently. And on this channel, I just share my journey and all the little things that I'm learning along the way. Probably a good time to say that with all of this, take this as information, but you need to do your own due diligence, hire your own attorneys, make sure you're clear on all of it, but I just want to expose you to what this information is right now. Oh, and by the way, if you need an attorney, you can click down below and get mine. He is incredible, and he's been great for me. Just fill out the form, he'll reach out via WhatsApp, and there's some other stuff down there you can explore in the video description if you need referrals for realtors or anything else. All right, so let's dive into this company called One Alliance, who's issuing the bond or policy, the insurance policy, and how good are they? The first thing I look at with an insurance company when analyzing them is what is their credit rating? And the best credit rating agency I know of is AM Best. They rate One Alliance as B+, which is a good credit rating. There's another credit rating agency called Demotech, and they actually give One Alliance an A+ or excellent credit rating. In either case, you're talking about a company that's got a good to excellent credit rating, which shows a level of solid financial ability with this company. But even further than that, the next thing I look at is, are they properly or adequately reserved? And what does that mean? Right, Miguel? You got nothing? Okay. When you work in the insurance claims world, anytime a claim comes in, you need to reserve money, set it aside for what you anticipate paying for that claim. That money can't be invested, it can't be used, it needs to literally sit in an account as a kitty to pay claims. From what I could see doing my analysis on this company, One Alliance, they are adequately reserved for the number of potential claims that come in, meaning they've set aside the right amount of money based on their claim potential volume. But even more than that, they also have purchased what's called a reinsurance policy. This is an insurance policy for the insurance company. Isn't that crazy? Pretty much what it's saying is, hey, we're going to cap our risk and say that we're willing to pay out this much money in total claims. And after that, rather than it being who knows how much uncapped that we need to pay out, we're going to pay a premium to a reinsurance company to pay any amount above that. That is a very simplistic explanation of it, but that's what it is. But more importantly to me, this company, with their credit rating being good to excellent, with them showing adequate reserve levels and being a participant in reinsurance, it speaks to validity or credibility as a company overall for One Alliance. The last thing I'll share is my own personal experience with Larimar, CLERHP, and the players within it. The CEO of this project and of the company and the founder was at my house not long ago, probably 6-8 months ago, for a birthday party for our kids. It's just what happens in DR all the time. And I had a chance to talk to him about what he's doing and just sort of starting to learn about Larimar. This is right before they started to break ground. Something he said really stuck out to me, especially as I've gone deeper and deeper and deeper in my 3 years into the buying process. One of the things almost everybody complains about with Dominican Republic construction is water mitigation in the build. Meaning, are they building it so that water goes away from the building? In my DR Inner Circle, which is a monthly paid community for anybody who wants to get deeper and closer on all this stuff, as well as weekly Q&A with me and expert Q&A, we had one expert come in that's actually an internationally certified building inspector, and he gave us some really great insights on some of the things to look for when it comes to buying a property in DR, whether it's in a condo or your own building or whatever it might be. And one of those things he talked about was water mitigation and how construction in DR, they just don't think about water propelling away from the structure at all. So back to when the CEO came to my house and we were chatting, he went over to the ledge of a window at the house I was living in at the time, and he showed me how it's completely 90 degree and made the point like, man, this should be angled down slightly so that as water pools, it runs away from the property. He goes, I see it in the Dominican Republic all the time. They don't do this. The same with shower floors. Often they're not tilted slightly so that the water goes toward the drain. It's just completely level. So when he talks about some of the things he's doing with Larimar, he's talking about that. He wants to not just build a smart city, walkable, mixed use with all this cool stuff overlooking the cliff of the ocean and all that good stuff, but he wants to do it in a way that he says is higher quality, newer construction standards for DR. And we'll see. We'll see what that looks like once the product is finished. But I felt like that was a little anecdote that I should share. I do know these folks. I have met them. And again, this video is not an endorsement of or a non-endorsement of them. It's just simply information and something that I thought was really interesting that they're introducing to the market with this bond or insurance product that they put out there. And I wanted you to meet Miguel. It's right there. Say hi, Miguel.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
Wait, I don't know whose voice that is. Told you, I'm back in the US for a few weeks. I'm bored. All right, just bear with me. Okay? I'm sure somebody's gonna be offended. Always is. There's always one in the comments. We'll see who the first one is. So boiling this all down, that question, is this a guarantee that you will not lose your money investing in the Dominican Republic? No, not a guarantee. Nothing is, and it's true of anything. If something's too good to be true, it probably is. That would be the case here. However, if you were to present to me a whole bunch of different factors here from this company and this project, and you said, hey, Jamie, this company has done full cycle projects, their leadership is local in the Dominican Republic, and they have faced adversity in the building process, those are my 3 biggest questions for a developer. You go back, watch other videos of mine. When I talk about vetting a developer, I ask those 3 questions. And in all 3 cases here, they fit. I don't think I shared the adversity part. Let me do that real quick. In a prior video, I shared how there was a permitting issue, not specific to Larimar, but to all projects in that area. It was Larimar, it was a project called Cruise on Land, and there was one or two others. What happened in that moment was it seemed as though, oh no, Larimar and these other projects need to halt construction because they're not permitted correctly for the construction. There are like 5 different permits that you need to get from 5 different municipalities. Where Larimar sits is in between like 3 potential municipalities, and those 3 municipalities got into this battle over who should have been paid for that permit. And these companies were caught in the crosshairs. But what did happen back then was a quick text to one of the leaders inside of Larimar, and he shot me right back the #1 permit that they need to get construction started. In fact, I'll show you it. It's right here on screen. And as a result of that, they had no halted construction as they navigated through the political issues. I really like that. I like that this popped up. I like that they were tested. A lot of people had their opinions about them, like, see, I knew it, whatever, who were all wrong. It was simply an intermunicipality dispute, if that's what that is. It was politicians getting mad that others were getting paid essentially for the permit as these developers got them. So one town was questioning the validity of the permit because it was issued by another town. Politics exists everywhere, my friend, whether it's in the US, Canada, Europe, or here in DR. There in DR. Right now I'm in the US, but you get the point. So anyway, this developer passes that 3-pronged test for me so far. But on top of that, if you were to show me that they are listed on an exchange, a reputable exchange, have broken ground on the project, have a clear vision and marketing strategy, and have their financials analyzed in order to be listed on an exchange in another country, and then in addition to that, they understand the biggest concern of the American or European buyer, and that is, if I invest there, is it actually gonna get done or am I gonna lose a bunch of money? Are you about to scam me? And in understanding that, they're providing an insurance policy. I mean, we're talking like 9 steps of things that they've done. If I could ask for anything more, it would be that it's not conditional, that it's unconditional, but my goodness. They're essentially saying, hey, listen, we believe in what we do so much so that we're willing to go out and spend money on an insurance policy to maximize the comfort of the buyer. If there were 12 things we could ask of them, they're giving 11. Again, the only thing being it's conditional versus unconditional. But again, unconditional is a way more expensive policy, and I'm sure that that cost will be passed down in the form of a higher cost of construction. So what they're saying is, hey, look, we know what we can do. This is what they are saying. We know what we can do. We've got the reputation. We're listed on an exchange. We've got the backing. We've got the financial know-how and wherewithal. If you need a policy, great. I'll do that as well. We don't want to increase costs, but for them, it's more like, we'll do this policy, but we don't even believe we need this. But I can appreciate that they're responding again to the concern of the American or European or Canadian buyer. It's wicked smart, as they'd say up in Boston. So it's not foolproof. It's not absolute. Nothing is. But is it the most aggressive and most complete product I've seen in the Dominican Republic as far as offering protection to the buyer? Oh, absolutely it is. Better said, if there were cakes representing every developer, the best icing is on the Larimar cake right now, as far as we can see. Now, again, to be clear, I'm not endorsing investing there. I haven't invested there. I'm not endorsing not investing there. I haven't. I'm invested with Boardwalk. I'm invested in Cortecito. I'm doing some stuff in Miches, and I'm buying my property in Punta Cana Village. That's where I'm spending my money and time and energy. And I am due to go visit this project, and I'll share that with all of you when I go see it. But I wanted to go into this, me and Miguel. Thanks, Miguel. I wanted to dive deep into this whole entire thing and share with you what I'm learning about some of the products that are being offered in response to the American buyer, and then you make the decision. Do your due diligence, make sure your gut feels right in whatever purchase you're gonna make, of course, and roll from there. Now, a tour I have done that you might wanna check out is in Cap Cana, and I went through and looked at a few different aspects of that entire development. If you wanna see that, just click right here and I'll put that video up for you. I hope this helped. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.